Bitch is a Bad Word podcast is for informational purposes only and reflects the opinions of the host and guests. Please take care of your emotional well-being while listening. We do not endorse third-party views and are not liable for any defamatory claims. Listeners should conduct their own research and consult professionals before making decisions. Caliber Studios has not independently verified the information you're about to hear. Welcome back to Bitch Sesh. If you're new here, hi, I'm Lindsay. I'm one mom with 4 kids and 0 fancy letters behind my name. I bring on all of the experts to help us unpack all of the toxic traits that we are navigating through together as we navigate our roads through and out of domestic abuse. Today, we're diving into part 2 of Lynn's story. And if you thought part 1 was heavy, then you need to just settle in, besties. This time, we're talking about the silent weapons abusers use long after the relationship ends. The courtroom and the bank account. Financial abuse, litigation abuse. These are the hidden battlefields where survivors are forced to fight for their freedom, their children, and their sanity. And they're often fighting against systems that weren't built to protect them. Lynn is back to pull the curtain on what it really looks like when an abuser weaponizes the legal system and money as tools of control. This is an episode that might make you rethink everything you thought you knew about justice. So welcome back to Bitch Sesh. Thank you for joining us, Lynn.
Thank you so much.
We are so excited to have you back. We loved the first part of this, and we loved it so much that we kept going on, and we had to have you back for a continuation of this very important story and the message that we keep hearing and needing to share. Excuse me. Sorry. The message that we keep hearing and that we need to share to our besties is along the lines of the insidious nature of financial abuse and post-separation abuse. And you have your own personal connection, unfortunately, to this nasty little wormhole that abusers, let's be real, use to continue the control and the abuse after you've made the brave decision to leave.
Right. Absolutely. It's my story is so excessively long because and typically when I do podcasts, I usually, kind of focus on the earlier part of my life, which is like, childhood up until my first marriage, which has so much, abuse and coercion and trauma in it that often that takes up so much time, and I don't really get to delve into what happened in my first marriage.
Let's just get right into it.
Okay. So I think where I left off last time was, that I was with several men, in my teens and 20s, and I had experienced reproductive coercion, and I had experienced sexual assault and domestic abuse, and threats towards, pets of mine. I moved around a lot. And, but at some point in my life, probably when I was in my very late 20s, I actually received a message on Facebook from, well, I should say he was a man at the time, but he was a boy when I first met him. And it was someone that I had met when I was 13 years old. And I think he was the first boy I ever kissed. And he sent me a message like 15 years later on Facebook and basically said, this is all the stuff that's been going on with me. I've done all these wonderful things. I've donated to charities. I've, had a full life. Now I work in, tech and this and that. And so we started reconnecting. And I had actually just left an incredibly abusive relationship. And that was the relationship where I was with the man for about 18 months and he had actually raped me. And so needless to say, I shouldn't have been with anyone at that point, but hearing all of these positive things, I thought that he was safe. I thought, well, this is someone, who's from not my hometown specifically, but like from my region that I grew up with. This is someone that I knew as a child. This is someone that I can trust. So it was, maybe a couple weeks in, we started talking on the phone, and it became a long distance relationship. And so we started talking every single day about memories and funny things that have happened to us in all the years since we, lost connection. And one of the red flags that should have ticked me off immediately was that everything that I said to him, I started divulging all of these like painful and private things from my life. He would echo them right back to me. Oh, well, if that happened to you, I would never treat you that way. And I'm always so understanding about this. And I'm, have similar feelings on, that and these major issues. And so I thought, wow, this is my person. I have finally met my person. And I'm so genuinely excited to start a life with this person. But he started throwing out I love yous very quickly. I mean, maybe a handful of conversations in, it was, I love you. I've always been in love with you. I thought you were beautiful even when you were 13 and you had braces. I want to marry you. I want to start a life with you. Just immediate love bombing. And instead of getting a little bit scared, I sort of ignored my mind. I almost feel like we have a lot of senses about us, but I feel like there's sort of um, your logical sense where you're saying, then none of this really makes any sense, and this person doesn't really know me, and we haven't even seen each other in person in years. And then there's your emotional side, which says, I would really like to connect to someone. I've been with so many awful people. I really just want to be with someone who accepts me for me. And so we kept talking, and unfortunately, at the time, the man that I had ended the relationship with was still bothering me. Like, he was still trying to get to me through my friends. He would still randomly show up at my house and try to get in my front door. He would still call me, even
Is
when I
this
was
the
at
guy
work.
that was like watching you sleep?
No, no, this is a guy that I dated in my mid 20s. And I thought I talked about this the last time,
You might
but
have. I
yeah,
just, like, it's been a minute
yeah, no,
and
me too. I'm
I'm
trying to
like, I know
remember,
there was
but
somebody in your house that shouldn't have been in your house watching you sleep. I know that was all fucked up.
yes,
Okay. So anyway, you're another guy who
yes. So I
is
had
like,
two like really, really abusive relationships in my 20s. And the first
okay.
one was the I want to watch you sleep guy, who, got me pregnant via reproductive coercion. The second guy was a little bit later on. I think I started dating him when I was about 26 and he was 33.
Uh, don't like
Which
that.
is, yeah,
It's
it's not
okay.
like
26 and 33. Okay. Wait, that's okay.
you
Maybe,
think to yourself like, oh, it's not a big age. And
but
for
it,
that part period of my life, I don't think the age range was the issue at
yeah,
that point. I think the issue was that this person was dangerous.
right.
But I felt like he ticked all these boxes. Well, he comes from a good family. He seems to
Mm-hmm.
make good money. He works, he has his own car, he has his own condo. And I kind of checked off all the boxes and thought he was a decent person.
Mm-hmm.
And he became controlling and abusive almost immediately. Like, he would look over my shoulder to see how much money was in my bank account. We didn't have a shared account, by the way. This is my money that I'm making. But he's looking over my shoulder, checking out my bank account, going through my phone, picking out all the male names, and then demanding to know who they are. Some of these people I had a similar last name with. So I was like, clearly that's a brother or a
Yeah,
cousin or my
right,
dad. Like, it just was
right.
ridiculous. I was grilled constantly. And then the relationship started to become physically abusive. So he was very insidious about it. Instead of just hitting me straight on, he would kind of shove me into things,
Mm.
and he would pretend that he was joking around. This is a very, very large man. Um, he was kind of built like a football player, like really wide and strong. And so he would pretend that we were joking around, and I would tell him, "Stop, you're way too strong, you're really hurting me." And he would say something like, "Oh, you're not that little of a girl, like you could take it."
Hmm.
Meanwhile, legitimately causing me pain.
Right.
So he was
Yeah.
very, very sneaky about it. So I had just exited that relationship with that terrible guy, and it took me a year and a half to fully exit that relationship. And then my first husband shows up. And we start talking, and he's kind of vilifying the ex-boyfriend. I can't believe he put his hands on you. I can't believe he did those things. I have no respect for men that are quite that controlling. And so I think everything's going fine. So I make the decision to move for him, because not only am I trying to be closer to him, but I'm trying to run from everything that I'm currently experiencing, which is my ex-boyfriend basically stalking me and harassing me. So I make the decision that I need a fresh start in a brand new place. So I relocate from Eastern North Carolina, and I drive all the way to Northwest Arkansas. And I am in the middle of nowhere. No offense to anyone who's from Northwest Arkansas. It's very pretty, but for a girl from New Jersey, it was complete culture shock. It was so I moved all the way to be with this man. And then the minute that I got there, now the real person starts to come out. So not only is he completely and utterly broke, I mean, not a dime to his name, doesn't even have his own car, doesn't have a job, I find out, more as we get more and more into the relationship, there's money issues. Not only is it, there's extreme debt that isn't paid off. There are notices coming in from the IRS that he owes them money. So it's just getting worse and worse. And then the kicker for me was, and I talked about this in the previous episode, how my father was a compulsive gambler when I was a kid.
Yes.
I find out he's a gambler.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that for me was like absolutely not. I put my foot down. We were engaged at that point, and I said, I will not marry you if you gamble, period. End of story. I will not do it. I've seen the damage it can do. I won't do it to my kids. I won't do it to myself. So if you want to gamble, go ahead and do it. But you and I will not be together. And
completely reasonable boundary, by the way.
And at first, of course, he lashed out, and screamed and cursed, and went out one night and drinking, on a bender, and came home, and we got into a big fight. And then, as I was getting ready to basically start my life over without him, he got on his knees and said, I'm not going to lose the person that I love, and so I will no longer gamble. And I said, I think you owe me a little bit more than that. I think you need to go to meetings, because this is a serious problem. That was not the only issue that was going on. He was also abusing pain medication.
Jeez.
So it was a complete mess. And at this point, I was so intertwined in him, in this relationship. I was, as I said, it's so far away from family and friends, everyone that I knew. So we ended up taking some time and I guess sort of working things out. He told me that he wasn't going to gamble anymore. Finally got a job, finally started contributing. It seemed like things were getting better. We, rescheduled our wedding. We got married. A lot of my family members flew all the way from the East Coast and the West Coast to Arkansas for this wedding. So now it's the day of our wedding, and his family is nowhere. His own family did not show up to our wedding.
Hi, I'm Sarah Wayne Callies, and I played Dr. Sarah Tancredi on Prison Break.
And I'm Paul Edelstein, and I played Agent Paul Kellerman on Prison Break. Please join us on our rewatch podcast, Prison Breaking, with Sarah and Paul.
We're going to have all kinds of guests and never-before-told stories, so follow us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. And you can subscribe to our watch party on the link there. We can't wait to see you there.
And follow us on Instagram at Prison Break Podcast. See you there.
I have an issue. Like, if you're gonna elope, that's cool that you've both decided. But now you've he's eloping and not letting you know. That's what's happened.
Right. And that was the funny thing, was that we didn't have a lot of money. So what I said to him was, why don't we just elope? That would be quicker and easier. Why don't, if we really want to be together that bad, why don't we just go to the courthouse and make it legal?
Sure.
And his excuse or reasoning behind that was, well, people only do that when they're ashamed. And I was like, no, they really don't.
No.
People do that for a lot of reasons.
Yeah, I could definitely tell you a million reasons.
But yeah, no, it's insane. And so he insisted on having this big production. And then it was even more of a slap in the face because my family contributed all this money to this wedding and all this money on plane tickets and hotels and, you know, to make this wedding as great as it was. And his family is nowhere. And when I asked him right before the ceremony, where is your family? He had this ridiculous story about how his father had a panic attack on the flight and they escorted him off the airplane. It was absolutely ridiculous. I didn't buy any of it, but I felt, my family and I felt so bad for him. Like that's how we felt. We weren't angry at him. We felt so sorry for him that there was no one there to support him, that we felt like we needed to lift him up. And we were like, oh, you poor thing. How could your family do this? That's, you know, well, you know, you're part of our family now. You know, and because that's the type of people that we are. And so, you know, we went through with the wedding. It was actually quite a beautiful wedding, you know, outside of, you know, all the lies that all the lies that I was being fed. The wedding itself was really nice. It was great to see my family. It was great to celebrate. The wedding venue was in the Ozarks. It was beautiful. And then I want to say we're maybe married for 2 months. And he said to me, I think you should stop taking your birth control. I think we should start having a baby, you know, trying to have a baby immediately. And I was like, okay, well, you know, there was already so much pain and grief left over from what had happened to me in my early 20s when I had to terminate, you know, 2 pregnancies with that terribly reproductive, you know, coercer that I was with, that I was actually anxious to start a family. And I thought, wow, if he wants to have kids, he must really love me. And so we actually made a move from Arkansas to Central Texas because he got, my brother-in-law was able to get him a really, really good job. Okay. So we relocated and we started trying to get pregnant and it wasn't happening. And I saw a fertility specialist after fertility specialist and they could never, you know, put their finger on what the issue was. They said, you know, I had so many tests. I had, you know, dye injected into my uterus and my fallopian tubes to see if there were, you know, polyps or fibroids or anything. And every test I would have, they would say, everything looks fine. We can't see any reason why you're not getting pregnant. Then, you know, eventually I did start getting pregnant. And this was maybe a couple years into the marriage. So I was probably in my early 30s at this point. And every single pregnancy ended in miscarriage. And that happened to me 3 times in 2 years. And before that even happened, there was one fertility doctor that said to me, I'm going to put you on this medication that's supposed to make you, you know, basically when you ovulate, you're supposed to release more eggs and increase your chances of pregnancy. Well, my body reacted terribly to that medication, and I actually ended up rupturing an ovarian cyst, and I ended up in the emergency room. Jeez. So all of this stuff, I mean, it's like, it was so much like physical, invasive, like, and, you know, my heart goes out to people who experience infertility and they have to go through, you know, things like IVF. I never made it to IVF. I got pregnant, you know, a little bit before I tried that, but it's such a process and it's so emotionally, it takes this big emotional toll on you. And so I finally got pregnant when I was 34, and something about the pregnancy just felt different. And that was when I became pregnant with my daughter. And I had, outside of the losses, I was very concerned. The doctors were not. They said everything is going really well. And then I gave birth to my daughter in 2016. And she was perfectly healthy, amazing. But when the pregnancy started to really take off, I noticed that all of the problems that we were already having, the financial issues, the gambling, by the way, was still going on. He had told me that he was going to stop, and what he did was he just kept doing it behind my back. He may have not been blatant about it. He wasn't running off to casinos, but he was gambling on his phone with like different apps and stuff. Yeah, so I would see all these mysterious charges, in our shared bank account, and I would ask him, "What is this?" And he couldn't, never really give me a good explanation. And it's because he was like gambling through all of these, games on his phone and apps and different things. And so, not only that, but there was still the abuse of pain medication. So he was taking a combination of a major painkiller, Xanax on top of that, and throwing in a muscle relaxer.
Pretty intense cocktail.
Yeah. Like any one of those things would have knocked me on my ass, really.
Most people.
Right? Like,
Jeez. Okay.
He started to act like he was on heroin. Like that, he would nod off mid-conversation. So things really started to escalate when I was pregnant. He also stopped coming home a lot when I was pregnant. Like he would make up excuses that, there was construction on the road. And instead of maybe him coming home, an hour later, like if he's supposed to work an 8 to 5 and get stuff in traffic, and maybe he's coming home at 6 or 6:30, he was coming home at midnight. And he would say, "Oh, it's from construction and traffic." And I'm like, "Is the traffic in Oklahoma? Like, where the fuck are you stopping on the way home? Like, are you shooting off to
running the tractor?"
Right, exactly. Like, are you shooting off to North Texas to get barbecue and then sliding home? Because like I could, as a pregnant woman, I could almost forgive that.
Yeah, that sounds
if you
really
were
good
bringing
right
home
now.
barbecue, but you're not. You're
Right.
just walking in the fucking door late. So
Shit.
yeah. So I still to this day have no idea what he was doing. I'm not sure if he was, fooling around with other women, which would seem right up his alley. I'm not sure if he was parked in a parking lot, gambling on his phone, taking drugs, ignoring me. I don't know. I still don't know. But it's not good. Not that it matters. If you have a pregnant wife, when you're done with work, you should go home and be with your pregnant wife. Like that's where you should be.
Exactly.
It started to escalate even more when I had the baby. So, I went into labor, I want to say like in the morning, the day before my daughter was due, and started having contractions. So I just basically let him know, and I was kind of hanging out of the house all day. And he eventually came home from work, and just him taking me to the hospital was just sort of a very eye-opening experience for me. So we got to the hospital, I think he was trying to do his best to get me through labor. I'll say this, I don't like to say much on his behalf, but it was his first child. So obviously I think we were both very nervous, but I had a doula for that birth. If my doula hadn't been there, I don't know how I would have made it through, because he just crumbled, at every turn. He just didn't understand what to do. At one point he went to sleep while I was in labor.
I'm sorry that I'm not just like, oh my fucking God, really? Like I hate that I hear it and I'm like, wow, was this my labor? Was this my birthing story?
Right.
Or all these other women I'm talking about? Like I really
like
need to, as a host, I need to be like, oh my God, Lynn, what the fuck? But sorry, it's
like for women who have experienced it, they're just like, yeah, no, word, I get, yeah. Same.
Yeah.
But it's because it's these patterns, it's these typical patterns of like, we put ourselves on a chopping block to please them, to give them everything that we want, because we somehow think we owe them. And when we expect the support in return, they fail every time. They fail with lies, they fail with lack of support. And so, I had a doula, very fortunate for her. I finally gave birth like 24 hours after I first went into labor. And the very first thing he does after handing me the baby is leave. He left the hospital because he said, I'm going to go home and catch up on some sleep.
Oh
And I
my
thought,
God.
I haven't slept. I have not slept because, I mean, I guess some people.
You haven't slept because you've been creating a human.
Yes.
Like, what did you do today, dude?
Sometimes I'll see videos of like those births on like, I don't know, the Learning Channel or whatever
Oh
they
my
used to be on,
God.
where like a woman will have an epidural and then they'll like take a nap. I
Yeah.
am so jealous when I watch those videos because I thought I don't need an epidural. Like I'm going to do this all on my own. I've got my doula and I've got this and I'm going to do this. No. So I didn't get a nap. I just got pain, just a whole lot of pain. And
Yeah.
I just, you know, and it just, by the time I had my epidural, I was already like dilated to 10. Like I was already,
Yeah.
you know, and so I
Right.
couldn't go anywhere. I couldn't relax. So he, after all that, I hadn't slept in days.
After all that work that he did, he needed a nap.
Yeah, he really did.
Okay.
He was so exhausted. It was terrible. Poor guy. So he leaves the hospital and I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm going to frame this a different way. I'm going to frame it as he's been with me all night. And even though he slept a little bit, maybe he still needs some more rest. And I need him at 100% so that I can be fully supported. Like I'm really trying to give him
Yeah,
the
like you're
benefit of the
justifying
doubt.
his shitty behavior. Like,
Yes,
yeah.
basically. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, you know, hours go by and he doesn't come back. And at this point, it's like the nighttime.
Wait, did he go and get barbecue?
No. he
Is that
didn't.
where he was?
No. I have no idea where he was, but when I finally messaged, so I spent the entire first night after the baby was born completely alone.
Ugh, gross. I'm so sorry.
Thank you. And I don't want to go too much into a TMI, but so a lot of women tear when they give
Yeah.
birth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, you know, trying to get out of bed, trying to hold this baby, trying to nurse, never breastfed a child before. I'm trying to figure this all out. And I am utterly destroyed and he's nowhere in sight. So finally the next day rolls around now I've still not slept because this baby will only sleep when she is nursing. But I'm just like, also, I'm also like in this euphoric state because I'm like, I finally have this beautiful baby. She's perfect. Things are going to be better now. Like we won't argue anymore. There won't be this grief of all the miscarriages hanging over our heads. We're going to be fine.
Right.
So the next morning, I keep texting him and I'm like, I haven't slept. I really need you to come hold the baby so that I can sleep. I really need to recover. And I'd really like to take a shower. I still have my blood on me from giving birth. So if you could please come back. And the message I got back from him was, you know, there was a lot of thunderstorms last night and I really didn't get a whole lot of sleep because the dogs were upset. And I'm still really tired.
Oh my God.
I was
Like I want to be like, wah, but like it's not even that. It's just like that is the most disgusting, deplorable, despicable, all the D words, dickish
yes.
behavior. Wow.
And
okay.
It was also like, you know, I'm sitting there in the hospital. I am sewn back together. You know, and I have this beautiful baby and I'm just thinking to myself, oh my gosh, I am trapped now. I am such an idiot. And I thought, okay, well, look, I'm going to have to make the best of it because where am I going to go?
Right.
You know, what am I going to do? What am I going to do with this child? How am I going to start my life over? But everything started to really escalate after that. So he was a heavy smoker, promised me during the entire pregnancy that he would quit smoking. He kept telling me he wouldn't smoke right in front of me, right around me. He would go into the garage and smoke. But I was like, it's still getting in the house, dude. And it's still
also
on
like
you.
when you're pregnant, like the smell of cigarettes might be like the most vile smell ever.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. And so he never quit. So he was still smoking while he was still taking smoke breaks while I was in labor. Still was smoking and then would smoke a whole lot and then come in the house or come in the hospital room and immediately like pick up the baby without washing his hands. And so he was constantly exposing the baby to second and third degree smoke. And so I think it was like a few days after I give birth, we end up at the pediatrician's office, and it's the baby's first pediatric appointment. And the very first thing that she says to us when she looks at us is she comes a little bit closer to him and she sniffs him and she's like, I can tell that you're a cigarette smoker. The smell is overwhelmingly strong. Do not smoke around this baby. Do not smoke around this baby. Do not go outside and smoke and then come back in and pick up this baby. That cigarette smoke is all in your hair, your clothes, your skin, on your fingers. If you go outside to smoke, which you shouldn't be doing because you have a newborn and you shouldn't be doing it anyway for yourself, you need to come back into the house and fully shower before even touching that child. And I was like, bravo, hun. Thank you.
Yeah,
Someone
exactly.
needed to freaking say it because it wasn't enough coming from me, but at least now you're hearing it from a pediatrician. So get your fucking shit together.
Yeah. But also, sadly, that pediatrician just shamed him.
Yeah.
And that probably didn't go so well.
No, he never stopped. Never stopped. He just kept continuing to do it. He would be smoking constantly. He never wanted to hold her because, you know, like when you get into that newborn stage with babies, a lot of times they really just want to be with mom in the beginning.
Sure.
You know, mom is the food source. Mom is the comfort. Mom feels familiar. They just want to, they cry if anyone else tries to hold them. So instead of trying to bond with her, he would basically, you know, get rejected and pissed off if he picked her up and she cried, and he'd hand her back to me and he'd be like, my own daughter doesn't even love me.
Yeah. Ugh. Okay.
Yeah. He was fucking awful.
Yeah.
So, I tried to make it work for so long. I mean, but I was really just raising that child on my own. I mean, he would do the same thing where he would just not come home from work until midnight, sometimes 2 o'clock in the morning. Then he started to act, you know, even worse with the painkillers, where it came to the point where I didn't trust him to hold the baby. And that was kind of the position that we were in the hospital too, was that once he finally came back to the hospital, you know, because we were like about to be released, he came back and looked so drugged out that at one point I handed him the baby to rest, and I sat back and I watched him, and then I watched him holding my baby and his eyes start to close and his body start to go, and I was like, he's going to drop her on the floor. And I took her back.
Okay.
So still no sleep. So by the
Yeah.
time I got home from the hospital, I hadn't slept in days. It was miserable. But that kind of behavior kept happening when we got home. It was like I couldn't leave the baby with him for even 30 minutes to run to the pharmacy around the corner, because
Right.
if I came back, he would be passed out on the couch and the baby would be screaming her head off. It was awful. It was awful. And so, you know, we tried to make it for as long as we could, but, you know, it started to escalate into him screaming curse words at me with the baby in my arms. One night I was breastfeeding and he screamed right at me with her on me, fuck you, you fucking cunt.
Oh, our favorite C word.
And I was like, yeah, so not only did you say that to me,
Right.
but now you've just said it to our daughter, who
Right.
is like 6 or 9 months old. Like,
Yeah.
you know, and it just became so disturbing to the point where I just started to appreciate him not being home. I
Right.
actually dreaded him being home. You know, at first I just felt like he abandoned me and I have to do this all on my own. But once I got into kind of like a nursing routine with my daughter, and I just kind of wanted him to never come home because he would just ruin everything. He would just
You got used to being a single married mother.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And so there was one kind of epic fight that we got in when my child was, I think, about 10 or 11 months old. And that was the kicker for me. And that in that fight, he told me right in front of my daughter, no doubt, with her sitting right next to me, he told me that he was going to leave and that he was going to go get the male child that he really wanted.
Does he know that like his sperm dictates the damn gender of the baby?
And it's so funny because at that moment, my head thought immediately back to I had taken, one of those early tests where to find out if there's, any chance of, anything going on with the baby. And I want to say I took the blood test at like maybe 9 weeks pregnant. And so we found out 10 weeks that everything was looking good, but that we also found out we were having a girl.
Right.
And I remembered the moment that I told him that we were having a girl, and he looked genuinely disappointed. Yeah. After all of those miscarriages, after all of the everything that I went through to bring a healthy baby into this world. And he shamed me because the baby was not a male heir. And I was like, what fucking century?
The heir of all the like debt that he has.
I was like, what fucking century are we living in right now? This is fucking crazy.
Oh my God.
Yeah. He told me that
the
I was
heir
going...
of my misfortune.
He told me that I was going to die alone. And he told me that he would guarantee that I would never have another child.
Okay.
Yeah. And then he left. He left the house, and it was just me and her after all that had gone down. At that point, I didn't feel very safe. I tried to get the police to help me. I tried to get a lawyer to help me. I told her I didn't feel safe in my own home, even though he had left. I had actually called the police on him once because I didn't want things to escalate, and the cop was completely useless. He waltzed into my house while I was standing there with my two dogs, and my tiny daughter, and before even asking me what happened or filing a report or writing anything down, he started to minimize the situation by giving me marital advice. Well, I'm married with a kid. Marriage is hard, and I'm sure you're doing everything you need to do, and he's doing everything he need to do. And I'm like, telling me I need to die? Is that when someone tells you that I need to die, that I'm going to die alone in front of my baby, that's everything that he needs to do. And so I'm pleading with the cop. I'm like, he cannot act like this in a house with an 11-month-old.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand. And he was just like, well, and he just left, and that was it. And he wrote it up as a marital dispute. And from then on, it was a nightmare. I had a lawyer who tried to, I don't even want to say tried to steer me in the right direction, but we went into the court for the first temporary custody hearing. And based on everything I had told her, she told the judge she wants full custody. He clearly has drug issues. He hasn't been helping with the child. The judge was a complete misogynist who looked at me like I was a piece of trash. My husband testified that he had helped me with the baby, that he had bathed her, all the time. He had never bathed her. In the entire 11 months that she was alive, he had never given his own baby a bath. But no, his testimony somehow was more, truthworthy than mine. It was worth more than mine.
Mm-hmm.
I was so disgusted that day because this judge, so my ex-husband actually went in front of the judge and told him that he has a PhD from NYU, which is something that he actually told me when he and I first got together. Now I asked him several times through the relationship, if I had a PhD from NYU, I'd probably have it sitting on the wall. I mean, it's a pretty important document, right? You probably want to show that off, right? Never saw it. When I asked where it was, he said, it's in a safety deposit box in another state. I said, okay, well, go get it. Why don't we we have this house, we're living here. Why don't you bring it here? You have an office at the front of the house. Why don't we put your degree up in the office? And he was like, nah, it's too much trouble. I'm like, okay. Not until he has told so many judges that he has a PhD from NYU. I actually had a lawyer try to subpoena a copy of his records. Now, unfortunately, New York State doesn't accept outside subpoenas, which I'm thinking that my ex-husband probably knew, which is probably why he cooked this up. But actually, a few months ago, I became so frustrated with not knowing the truth that I called the registrar over at NYU and I gave them his name and asked if he had ever attended there. Doctorate, master's, undergrad. You know what they said? No.
Maintenance crew.
No record. He never even went there.
Ugh.
And he has told on every single hearing, at every single trial, he has told a judge that he has a PhD. And they all immediately look at me like I'm a piece of shit.
Right.
How
exactly.
could you bother this intelligent, responsible, well-achieving human being? How dare you? How dare you bother him? How dare you waste the court's time? That's
Right.
actually what the one judge told me in the very last trial that I had, which was in 2021. She actually said to me, "Why would you waste the court's time?"
I can't because it's like, this is part of like litigation abuse is so real, abuse. And like, shout out to the judges and the lawyers that are trauma informed that are understanding it. It's not all of it. It's not everybody that sits on the bench. It's just that like however they're matched up or like and I feel sorry for them in some ways because like, what do they know? They have like 8 seconds to listen to something. And these people, like your ex-husband, are very convincing. They're con artists. They can convince. I mean, you were probably sitting there like,
yeah,
he's not such a bad guy.
Right. Right. At the very first hearing that we had, and this was in front of a male judge, my ex-husband showed up to the hearing over an hour late in a mismatched suit with bloodshot eyes. And still, that judge said, "Oh, he makes so much money. Oh, he has a PhD. Clearly he's responsible. I'm going to give him overnight weekend visitation with a breastfeeding 12-month-old." And so my baby, who I had never been away from, not for a moment, I had to give up to this man for 2 entire days. And she was exclusively breastfed, by the way. She didn't even take bottles. I had to give her up for 2 whole days. And when he left the house with her, it felt like someone had ripped off one of my limbs.
Oh, I can't even imagine. Like, and then just the fear of what is he going to do with her?
Right. And then he came
and
back.
her safety, even just driving in the car with somebody who is potentially on drugs or wow.
Yeah. And when he came back, I said to him, "What did she have to drink? While she was with you? What did you give her to drink?" And he said, "Oh, well, you didn't give me any pumped milk." And I said, "I don't pump. She doesn't take bottles. She nurses. She is a breastfed baby." And he said, "Well, it's all your fault. You didn't give me any milk, so she hasn't had any milk for 2 days." I was like, yeah, that's exactly how that would be put, is that it was somehow my fault.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. And so everyone told me, "Well, why don't you try to pump while she's gone so that even if she comes back and she doesn't want to take a bottle, at least you don't lose your supply. At least you're still pumping to keep it up." So I'm sitting there sitting at my dining room table. She's gone. I am sick to my stomach. I can't eat. I can't sleep. And I can't pump because I don't know how to do it. I've never pumped in my life. And one of my friends said, "You know what can really help with pumping? If you look at a picture of her, it can like make the milk come."
Right.
Yeah. So now I'm sitting at my table trying to pump, looking at a picture of my daughter that's gone. I am breaking down. I mean, like, it's not good. It's not good. So she eventually came back, didn't have any milk. she looked so bewildered, like when she came back. Like she looked like she couldn't understand why she had gone. But at that point, I mean, she spoke pretty early, my daughter, but it wasn't complete sentences at that point. She was only 12 months old, so she couldn't really say much except for, like mommy and
Right.
I miss you and I love you, little things like that. But she couldn't tell me, anything. If anything bad had happened to her, she wouldn't have been able to tell me anyway. And so he was ordered to pay me a certain amount of money for child support. That was ordered at the temporary custody hearing. He did not pay that. He sent me several checks and they bounced. Meanwhile, I'm living in our marital home that he chose to leave. So we have bills at this marital home. We have a mortgage. We have utility bills. We have other stuff that needs to be taken care of. We live in an HOA, so I have to pay someone to landscape the place. We don't,
Right.
Things have to be kept up at least until we decide what to do with this house. So he never gave me any money for the mortgage. And I'll mention I had worked as several years as a paralegal before I decided to stay home. But one of the things he kept trying to get me to do was to leave my job. Oh, you don't need to work. I'll take care of you. You don't need to bring in your own money. It's my job to take care of both of us. And then he, when we found out I was pregnant, he said, I really want you to be a stay-at-home mother. I don't want you to have to worry about daycare and going back to work. Trick. That's a fucking trick.
Yeah.
It
is a
really
trick.
is. It is such a trick.
They want to
So
keep
by the
you
time
hostage.
he had left, I hadn't worked in over a year because I stopped working once I found out I was pregnant. I was so terrified I was going to lose the pregnancy, and I was working at a contract job at the time, and I quit the job immediately. And I stayed home until she was 12 months old, and then the money was not coming in because he wasn't ordered specific, even though he was ordered to pay the mortgage and give me the child support. He didn't do either one.
Right.
So I had no money. So the mortgage is not being paid. And now I'm getting called by the mortgage company every single month. You're behind in your mortgage. I was like, I wish I could help you. I have no money to give you. I have nothing. I have nothing. I haven't worked in months. It's just me and this job. So of course I had to run out and take the very first job that I was offered. And I was completely lowballed, but I had no choice. I had to take it. So I went back to making the salary that I was making when I was like, I don't know, like from like 10 years ago.
Right.
So it basically like took me all the way back that time off. And then there were, on top of that, I was being stiffed on child support. The mortgage, the loan is in default. They almost foreclosed on the house.
Jesus.
We sold it like just in time. And because I was the one living in the home, obviously,
Yeah. Now you have to find a place and.
Yeah, I had to find a new place to live. I didn't want to upend her life completely. I went from living in a house with, a couple of bedrooms and a backyard, and I didn't want to all of a sudden. He immediately went out and like got himself like a bachelor pad. Like he found himself like a 1-bedroom, apartment. Then he came over and actually bragged about the 1-bedroom apartment in a conversation that we were having, and he was like, "You should see my new apartment. It's so nice. There's a pool. There's a gym." I was like, "That's great." There's this fucking mortgage we need to pay on this house with both of our names on it. So if you think you're only screwing me, you're not. You're also screwing yourself. So yeah.
Jeez.
And so yeah, it was just awful. The only one even trying to get the house move-in ready to show was me because I was the one that was there. And I had to do all of this while trying to figure out a daycare for her, while trying to get a new job, while trying to figure it all out. So I'm the one day in, day out that is getting up, dropping her at daycare, going to work. He was supposed to visit her on weekends, but canceled most of his weekends. He was supposed to visit her, I think, over that first summer, because I want to say that first hearing happened in May. So that first summer that we were separated, barely visited her because he realized how much work she was.
Right. But he's like, me, they still want to fight you in court.
Oh yeah, of course. No, still wants joint custody. And in
Right.
Texas, it works a little bit different than other states because in other states you just have custody. In Texas, it's not really called custody. It's two separate things. It's conservatorship, where you decide who makes the decision about the child, and then there's possession. And so you can have joint conservatorship where you both get to make decisions about the child's life, like medical decisions and school and whatnot, but you can have different possession. So for the longest time, he had standard visitation, which is like, the every other weekend and you get the holidays and whatnot. But he
Right.
didn't really take it, never took it in all those years. But I still had to, you know, talk to this person about major decisions that were being made. Luckily enough, she was young enough where she wasn't attending school, so that was really never an issue. It was just daycare. But at one point during the pandemic, and so this was several years later, so my daughter at this point was probably 3.5 or 4 years old, about. I had remarried to my husband now, and we had a little boy. And I thought, I mean, he was still kind of a thorn in our side. Like he would still show up to kind of, make things miserable and cause a lot of confusion. But I kind of thought things were getting better. And, I thought, hey, she's got this positive male role model in her life. It doesn't matter if they're not blood. He loved her from the minute he saw her, taught her how to do all the things that a father should teach a kid, how to read, how to tie her shoes, all those things. When the pandemic hit and lockdown happened, I was supposed to have both of those kids in daycare because she was about to be 4 and my son was 4 months old. And all of us had to stay home. So my husband, my current husband, and I were trying to work remotely while taking care of these two little kids. And we just made it work. My husband would, read to her and we would print off, things on the internet to make sure that she was still learning and practicing her math and her writing skills, just so that, because we didn't know how long it would last, we wanted her to be really ready for kindergarten.
Right.
And at one point, it just got so ridiculous that we went back into court. And we got a psychologist, a child psychologist for my daughter. And at one point, my daughter made an outcry of abuse against my ex-husband, against her birth father. She said that he had thrown something at her head and that he had called her stupid, and that she didn't want to go there because my ex-husband and his new wife were not nice to her, that they were mean to her. And so
I can't stand it.
she said this to several people, me. We had a babysitter at the time. She said it to the babysitter. She also said it directly to the psychologist because my daughter is incredibly intelligent and articulate, and she has been that way forever. So she sat down right in front of this therapist, and it was a virtual session. She sat right in front of the computer, and I'm so proud of her. And she said, my dad hit me and he threw something at me and he called me stupid, and I don't want to go over there because they're not nice to me. And she did not report it. She did not report it to CPS.
It's
Yeah.
just devastating.
I know. It's like when I tell people what's happened to me, either they think I'm lying because it's so fucking ridiculous. Or their next response is, if they don't live in Texas, their response is usually, what the hell is going on down there?
Right.
And,
Yeah, but I hear these stories all the time, like that it just doesn't get reported, and it's just everybody's heads in their ass, and
yeah,
nobody's getting taken care of. The kids are at risk.
right.
So so that never gets reported. What happens next?
So the trial dragged on. I want to say we filed something like very early in 2020. I should also mention this. So he and I separated in spring of 2017.
Okay.
By a year later, we finally had the divorce settled. So this is March of 2018. He had brought this girl to my house. I shouldn't say girl, woman. At first, she was so tiny, I thought she was 18 years old, but I found out later on she was in her late 30s. Something about her just didn't look right when he first brought her over. And this was like a few months before we finalized the divorce. And I was really, really worried. Like, something just caught me off about her, about the way she was acting, the fact that she was hiding from me when she came over with like her head under a hood. It was just very shady. So I looked at her Facebook page and I found out her name and her birth date. And down here, that's all you really need to find out if someone has a criminal history. What I pulled up, I remember hysterically crying. I found out that she had several arrests on her record, mostly for misdemeanors, but they just kept popping up. So it was like I would find one and I would pull it up and it would be like, drunken disorderly or like, a public intoxication. Then I would pull another one up and it would be theft. Then I would pull another one up and it would be, something else. And I just kept pulling them up and I'm like, okay, maybe she's turned a new leaf, but I'm still so mad. And I'm like, something still doesn't seem right. Well, I realized after a while, I had only checked one county. So I checked a different county. It turns out she had a felony conviction for possession of meth.
Oh.
Yep.
Damn.
And I went to my ex and I said, this is what I found on your girlfriend. And he said, you're a liar. And I said, really, am I? Would you like me to fax you over the paperwork? Because I've got it in my hand. He got that woman pregnant. Just as he actually got her pregnant before we were even legally divorced. So now my ex-husband has 3 kids by 3 different women.
It's like their playbook.
Yeah. Now I could only imagine, because I've been treated like shit, in court so many times by male judges, by female judges. It's been pretty disgusting. But I can only imagine how much worse things would be right now if I had walked into court in a shitty suit an hour late with bloodshot eyes. If I had, had a baby with someone with a felony conviction for meth.
Yeah.
Like just all these things that I'm like, why? Why do you all keep trying to convince me that he is a good father? Mm-hmm. What does it take? And I've realized in the state of Texas, usually what it takes, bruises.
Yeah.
They want to see that your kid was either intentionally starved or had the shit beaten out of them. And if a kid is vocal about abuse that's happened, they don't care.
Yeah. No, it's
Because they want to file that under maternal alienation. Mm-hmm. Oh, clearly the child couldn't say that on her own, so you made her say it. Really? Okay. So you can't win. In my opinion, you can't win. And it's so, it's scary for me to have to say to people, stay out of family court, because I follow a whole lot of people on Instagram who say, I can help you frame your case better. I can help you organize your evidence. I can help you, present yourself in a better light. I think it's great that those people exist. And I think if someone is getting any worth out of that, that's fantastic. But my opinion, stay out of family court, especially if you live in Texas. You will be fucked royally if you're a woman. If you're a protective mother, you'll get fucked royally.
Yeah, I think it's almost everywhere. It's just unfortunate. And then you're just sucked into this vortex.
So I went back and filed for a modification. And then my daughter made the outcry of abuse against her father. And when we finally got around to having a trial, which was like almost a year and a half after I had originally filed for the modification, and it got dragged out through the pandemic and all of these ups and downs and ridiculous stuff, the judge looked at me, a female judge who claimed that she was a survivor of domestic abuse, looked me in the eye, told me that I had wasted her time, awarded my ex-husband 50-50 possession of my daughter. So now she has to spend half of her time with him. And then to punish me, made me pay his legal expenses. So not only have I lost time with my daughter, but I have lost an exceptional amount of money. I didn't need it. I work. I make good money. My current husband makes great money. We didn't need the money for ourselves. That money was supposed to be for our kids. That money was supposed to help our kids get set up for any kind of life that they wanted. So they never had to worry about their finances. Go to college wherever they want. You know, my son is neurodivergent. Who knows what kind of extra therapy or extra things he might need because, now we have no Department of Education, and I worry every day what's going to happen to my son's individualized education plan. That money could have been really useful, and it's gone.
Yeah, it just like trickles down through. I mean, it's just not affecting just one person. It affects the whole family. It affects the whole community. It affects the whole generation. It's not just an awarding of one amount of money. And that's the sad part. And then they just walk away to the next case. So now this is still happening. You're still sharing custody. So that's just sort of that's just what you have to deal with.
Now I just have to deal with it. It is, I won't say that the day-to-day is challenging, because what I try to do is the times that I do have with my daughter, I just try to make the most of it. My son has been really affected by this because that was his sibling. That was a sibling that he had around basically almost all the time when he was a toddler, a toddler, and then, and now she's not around and he's 5 years old. He doesn't understand it when she has to leave. And something like that is so hard to explain to a child that your older sister has a different father and she has to go spend time with him and he doesn't get it entirely. And so that's, and all the things that we're missing out on. Every time I try to suggest an activity for my daughter, she'll come home with a flyer for art classes, or she'll say she wants to, join the school choir. If it comes on my end, he knocks it down. He says, we don't have time. We don't have time to do it on our schedule. I'm like, well, I'm looking at your calendar because we have to use an app to communicate. So that's more money that's being spent because those apps aren't free. So now we have to use this ridiculous app with a tone meter built into it so that we can speak to each other. And so I'll write him a message and I'll give him all the information and I'll say, this activity is on Thursday afternoons after school. Your daughter would really love to participate. He'll come up with a reason why he can't. Oh, we can't. I'm busy. Well, I've got other kids. I've got, 2 other kids in 2 other schools and 2 other counties and 2 other cities. Well, who the fuck's fault is that, buddy? Did you think about that at all when you were literally nailing everything that crossed your path? Like, did you think one day that you might have 3 different kids in 3 different cities with 3 different groups of activities and that you might have to toggle that and that'd be really difficult? Or were you just thinking about getting the son to spite me? Because that's what he said when he knocked up that girl. Forgive my phrasing. I know that's not very polite, but fuck him. No, as soon as he got that girl pregnant, the girl with the criminal history, he sent me text messages and said, ha, 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 the baby's a boy. I was like,
okay.
What is this? Why is this where your brain is at? What have you been watching lately? Like,
Game of Thrones or something.
So
oh my
insane.
God.
Like, just pure fucking insanity. And it never stops.
Yeah.
It never stops.
And it won't. And this is the unfortunate part. And this is like when you realize that this is what you're dealing with. And when you realize, like, I say thank God for the app, because I don't have a segment when these apps are used. My Texies from the Xties segment suffers greatly when we use these apps, but the mental health of the women on the other side are not having to get these like insane unhinged messages. But there is a lot of things that go into it. And the sad reality is that the more that they see us respond in a way that it affects us, that's the hit that they need. They're like, oh, he doesn't think that saying no to the art school or the choir is really affecting her. Because you asked, he's programmed to believe that his no affects you, which it does because you're a protective parent and you want your daughter to participate in the things she wants to participate. So it's like, again, 0 negative sum game with them. It doesn't, they only do for them and they only operate in a way that is intended to upset you so that they can get a hit and then they can get you to react and they can get you to respond. And then, or they wait until the last minute, they say no to everything. And then the next thing you know, they agree to it when you've finally like gotten upset. Like I've seen all of it. I've experienced all of it. So you get to this point where you just have to say like, fuck, this is the unfortunate part. Then the kids are the innocent bystanders. They are the ones that, you know, like my ex really doesn't do anything for me anymore emotionally. Like I have really worked hard to just be like, I just look at my kids and think, damn, I feel bad for you. Like I feel bad for you, but there's nothing we can do because it's not my fight to fight and I'm not doing it. You know, I'm not going down that path. And it is my fight to fight, but there's no fight to fight, right? Because they're not interested in playing nicely. They're not interested in doing anything. It'll be, they have another baby. They have this, they have all these other, like all the excuses because they all move on. They all have kids real quick with the next, you know? So the unfortunate part is that these children, when they're in this young age, it's like, I've had people recommend, you know what, sign them up anyway. And then they just have to participate in 50% of the time. And you have to let them know. Like, so we're going to do soccer only on my days. And you tell the coach and you're like, this is all we're doing. I hope you can understand. And you you make it work because eventually the children do grow up and they see all along who was there, who was solid and who had their back. And they're not young forever. And I think that some of these pathological people, they live in this world where they just see like they don't see the future. They're not thinking forward. They think in the immediate and the instant gratification and what can happen now. And these kids are paying attention. I promise you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And your daughter
You're absolutely
knows.
right.
Your daughter knows what's up. She will. And we just have to keep being strong and, you know, safe and even all the unhinged things. I mean, I see things and I hear things and you're like, oh my God, what the fuck?
I know.
But you can't. And you're like, okay, well, we just have to keep just being there for them. So good job for you just showing up. And, you know, I feel you in the 50% sadness when they're gone and you're like wondering how bad it is. What are they doing? Are they getting the love, the food, the nourishment, everything that they need? You know the answer, right? So you just have to when they come back, just have everything waiting for them in safety and, you know, emotional abundance and all the love in the world. And they're going to be okay.
Yeah.
That's what we know.
Thank you. I appreciate you saying that. Yeah.
She knows, and she knows she's going to be okay. And she doesn't know how to say it yet, but, you know, just having that, they know where feels safe. They know I can tell you so many people and experiences that say like their kids will come home and they'll sleep like for hours and hours and hours. And then, you know, or they're like eating everything in the cupboard or they're just, you know, they're like, what the hell? It's like they feel totally finally safe. And so they respond appropriately. So the more you can give them that safety and that love in that 50% time, you know, they know.
Yeah.
So you're doing a good job, Mama.
Thank you. You too.
Thanks. Thank you, Lynn, so much for sharing your story on this episode of Bitch Sesh. You're an absolute baddie. We love you.
Thank you so much for listening to my lengthy, ridiculous story.
No, I love it. Thank you for sharing it. It's so important to get out there and share these stories like that. These people are all working out of the same dirty mag.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, it's insane.
Well, I'll definitely have you back on, and congratulations on your new job too.
Thank you.
Remember, there is no safety in staying silent. If you or your kids are in immediate danger, please use 911, crash on a friend's couch, do whatever you need to do to get yourself safe. That is our first concern. The hotline.org, the National Domestic Violence Hotline, is there for all of our besties. You can reach out to them on their website, thehotline.org, for a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week chat. They have live agents. It's secure. It's confidential. Totally anonymous. You can reach out to them on their phone number, which is 1-800-799-7233, or text BEGIN to 88788. You guys, thank you so much. Besties, we love you. This bestie gang is so amazing. Please, if you want to share your story with us, send us a DM, send us an email, reach out to us. We would love to have you on an episode of Bitch Sesh. If this episode is resonating with you and you want to share, please do like, share, subscribe, review this episode on Apple, Spotify, everywhere else you listen to your show, so that we can keep growing this movement, building this bestie gang, getting freaking all together and just doing the damn thing. And I would love to speak with you. I answer all of our DMs personally myself, so you can reach out to us. TikTok is Bitch is a Bad Word. YouTube is at Bitch is a Bad Word. And Instagram is at Bitch is a Bad Word pod. Send me a DM. Our phone number is 331-BITCHES. You can use it as a landline. Send me a text. Please send us your texties from your exties. I'll read it anonymously on the show. And I'm hearing from a lot of our listeners that it's like very beneficial to them to like hear it and feel like every time they're listening to a segment, they're like, is that my texties from his testes? And it's not. It's just to tell you that you're not alone, and it's not you, it's them. We love y'all so much. I really just am so incredibly grateful to every single one of you who are listening, every single one of you who are quietly supporting us, out loud supporting us, all the support, all the love. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. It means the absolute world. We are still growing the biggest, baddest bestie gang ever on Patreon. www.patreon.com/bitch is a bad word. We have merch discounts, early release drop, ad-free episodes, a great community of women that are in there building community and networks. And there's just really some great goodness happening over there. Remember, shop our merch. We've got the Bestie merch, MILF Mafia, Mothers in Litigation Forever, Bestie Gang. Just take a look at our merch. We'd love your support. And if you buy anything, please definitely tag me, because I want to see this out in the world. Love y'all so much. We will see you next Tuesday. Bye, besties. Our editor is Kevin Mackler. Our music was composed by Drew Kevorkian. Our art design was created by Eric Johnson and Kevin Roche. Our interns are baddies and so awesome. And this has been a Caliber Studios production. Bitches being bad. Bitches being bad.